Today we're going to talk about commands and how to form both informal and formal commands, and as well as singular and plural commands. And we'll see what those look like in just a little bit. To start off, we're going to start out with two commands, specifically positive two commands. And you'll hear them called affirmative two commands, because when somebody tells you to do or not to do something, we use command forms that are also known as the imperative mood. So if you ever hear me call commands the imperative mood, or basically the umbrella term for all commands, you might hear it called imperative. Otherwise, commands is probably the day-to-day thing that you'll hear. Affirmative means positive commands telling people to do something, and negative commands means telling somebody not to do something. To form an affirmative to command, a positive to command, which means you're talking to somebody that you know, and there's only one person, we are just going to use the LA usted form of the verb in the present indicative tense. For example, if we were going to look at the present tense as a whole, Juan recoge y recicla las latas means Juan collects and recycles the cans. It is just a statement, an observation. But if we wanted to order Juan to do those things, we would still use the LA usted form, and we would say, Juan recoge y recicla las latas, por favor. Juan, collect and recycle the cans, please. There are irregulars. There are four irregulars. Venir becomes ven. Decir becomes di. So if you wanted to say or tell, we'd say di. Salir becomes sal, to leave. Hacer, to do or to make, becomes az. Tener, to have, becomes ten. Ir, to go, means ve, or is conjugated as ve. Poner, to put, pon. And ser, to be, say with an accent. Notice how say does have an accent. That's to distinguish it from the reflexive pronoun say. And ve does not have an accent. A lot of people will confuse the two. So altogether, our irregulars for two commands, ven, di, sal, az, ten, ve, pon, and say, would translate to come, say, leave, do or make, have, go, put, and be. For example, ve a la tienda would mean go to the store. Di la verdad would mean tell the truth. A great way to remember these in a row, Vin Diesel has 10 ve ponce. If you say it quick enough, it kind of sounds like Vin Diesel has 10 weapons, eh? Or Vin Diesel has 10 ve ponce. There's another song that we won't sing in this video, but if you were in class, you'll probably have heard it. So if we were going to do some practice, comer, if we wanted to command somebody to eat, come. Jugar, the LA usted form, remember, is a U to UE stem change, so it's going to be juega. Escuchar, escucha. Empezar is an E to IE stem change. Empieza. Salir is irregular. Sal. Hablar, habla. Decir, irregular. Di. Escribir, escribe. Servir is an E to I stem change. Sirve. Dormir, O to UE. Sleep is duerme. Practicar, practice. Practica. And buscar, look for, busca. Negative two commands are much different than positive two commands. Positive two commands are technically on their own little island, while negative two and the rest of the commands are going to follow the same pattern. What we're going to do to form a negative two command is we're going to start with the yo form of the present tense. So yo hablo, for example. Yo como. We're going to drop the o, and then we're going to add the opposite ending. So start with yo, drop the o, add the opposite ending. What do we mean when we say opposite ending? AR verbs are going to change the O after we've dropped the O to ES, because AR verbs, a flipped ending, would have an ER, IR verb endings. ER and IR verbs are going to drop the O and change to an AS ending, because it would be the opposite. So for example, if we wanted to say, I spend a lot of money, yo gasto mucho dinero, just an observation, not a command. To say don't spend a lot of money, what we need to do is start with yo, gasto, drop the o, and the opposite ending for an AR verb, gastar, is ES. No gastes demasiado dinero. Don't spend too much money. Notice how you have a no out in front because it's negative, and a flipped ending, no gastes. There are irregulars for these as well. You have to remember all of your irregular yo forms as it is when we start with yo, but there are also 5 or sometimes 6 if you consider it that way, irregulars when we have commands. And we say, a good way to remember it is don't forget to do the dishes. For dar, to give, we say no des. For ir, to say to go or don't go, no vayas. Ser, which means to be, to say to don't be, no seas. Aber, which technically doesn't have a meaning here, but it'll come into play later on in the year, no ayas. Estar, to be, so don't be, no estés, and notice how it has an accent. And saber, to know, so if you were going to say don't know as a command, no sepas. Another way to kind of string these together is haya, vaya, sea, sepas, des estés. And it kind of makes a little rhyme there that you probably heard in class. So, for example, no estés triste would mean don't be sad. More irregulars that we have to pay attention to are verbs that any verb that ends in kar, gar, or zar is going to require a spelling change in the -2 command form. So you're going to see C changes to QU, G changes to GU, and Z's will change to C. This is just like the preterite tense in the yo form. The spelling change occurs for the same reason. No toques la guitarra is don't play the guitar. So you can see how we have no toques has a QU instead of a C. No juegues con eso, don't play with that. Notice how jugar also is a stem change because it is in the yo form, yo juego. But when we flip our ending, it also has a cargar zar stem change. Empezar to start, no empieces. Note the stem change E to IE, as well as the Z changes to a C. No empieces, por favor, don't start, please. So if we did some practice with these, don't drink, flipped ending, start with yo, bebo, drop the o. Opposite ending for an ER verb is as, no bebas. Pedir is an E to I stem change. So yo pido, start with yo, drop the o. Opposite ending for an IR verb is as, no pidas. Salir is an irregular yo go in the present tense indicative. Yo salgo. So we need to drop the O from salgo and then flip the ending, which would be an AR ending for an IR verb, no salgas. Trabajar, flipped ending, no trabajes. Ir, we remember, is irregular in the -2 command form, no vayas. Pagar is a gar verb, so it's going to have a spelling change, no pagues, but an ES ending because it's an AR verb, the opposite ending. Dar is irregular as well, no des. Conducir is an irregular yo form as well. It is yo conduzco. So when we start with yo conduzco, we drop the O and we add the opposite ending. We're actually going to end up with no conduzcas, don't drive. Don't put, no poner. We're going to start with yo, which is yo pongo. Drop the O, and opposite ending for an ER verb is as, no pongas. Tener, yo tengo, start with yo. Flip the ending, no tengas. We're going to continue on with formal commands, which would be the usted and ustedes commands if you wanted to politely command somebody to do something or a group of people to do something, and also nosotros commands. They are formed in a very similar way. To use affirmative and negative commands for usted, ustedes, and nosotros, you need to start with the O, drop the O, add the opposite ending, just like -2 commands. So group together, -2 commands, usted commands, ustedes commands, and nosotros commands are going to start with yo, drop the O, add the opposite ending. Only affirmative or positive 2 commands are going to follow a different path, where they are just the LAO usted form of the verb with the 80 regulars vendi, sal, asted, we, ponce. So if we were going to look at some examples of these, tirar, to throw, the present indicative would be yo tiro. So the flipped ending for usted would be tire, the flipped ending for ustedes would be tiren, and the nosotros ending would be flipped as well, tiremos. Notice we start with yo as in yo hago, and then it becomes aga with a flipped ending, hagan, and then hagamos. Conducir, to drive. If you want to say I drive, it's yo conduzco, so the yo form ending influences the following commands. Conduzca, drive, conduzcan, drive, and conduzcamos, let's drive. Nosotros commands translate to English as let's. Let's throw, let's do or make, or let's drive in these situations here. More examples of these commands, especially the nosotros commands. No tiremos basura en el parque would mean let's not throw trash in the park, or let's not litter, literally. Conduzcamos, you can see conducir starting yo conduzco. Conduzcamos al cine means let's drive to the movie. So whenever you see these nosotros commands, you always have to start with let's or let's not, depending on if it's positive or negative. One exception to the rule, instead of saying for the nosotros command of ir, we actually use vamos, the present indicative, to say let's go. But to say let's not go, we say no vayamos, and we'll see why that irregular happens in just a second. If you remember, we're not going to forget to do our addition. Just like the -2 commands, we have some irregulars for the usted, ustedes, and nosotros commands. So, dar becomes de, den, and demos. The reason that de has an accent, remember, no des, the -2 command for dar, did not have an accent. Only de has an accent. Why? It's to distinguish it from the preposition of or from, as in like, yo soy de Illinois. The de would not have an accent. So really the accent there is really just to distinguish it or set it apart from that preposition of or from. For ir, we have vaya, vayan, and of course, just like we talked about, we have vamos means let's go, and no vayamos means let's not go. So just an exception to the rule. Ser, just like we remember from aya, vaya, sea, sepa, de, este, is sea, sean, and seamos, meaning be, and let's be. So seamos simpáticos would mean let's be nice. Aber, we included in the acronym for another reason you'll learn on later in the year, but you don't have to worry about that at all. Just include it in the acronym. Estar, we use este, estén, and estemos. Notice that the nosotros form does not have an accent. Just like estamos, when you're saying we are, in the present indicative tense does not have an accent. So no estés, este, and estén all have accents. Saber is sepa, sepan, and sepamos. For cargarzars, we're going to have to do that spelling change as well, just like we did in the -2 commands. Buscar would become busquen with a QU. So busquen a un compañero, por favor, is look for a partner, please. That's the ustedes command. Conjuguemos los verbos. Let's conjugate the verbs. That's where we get our website title, Conjuguemos. You see a GU because of the flipped ending. And finally, organizar, which means to organize. So if we wanted to say representatives, organize your papers. Representantes organizan a sus papeles, where the Z changes to a C in organizar. But of course, we're flipping endings in all of them. Nosotros commands will follow different rules at time. Because nosotros falls outside of the boot, stem changes do not occur as normal. So for example, pensar, if you think, means to think, usually goes yo pienso, piensas, piensa, where it has the E to IE stem change. However, in the nosotros form, it would not have that stem change. So you don't need to do P-I-E-N, just P-E-N as in pensemos. We're still flipping the ending, but we're not doing the stem change. So pensemos means let's think. Juguemos means let's play. The stem change U to UE, as in juego, in the yo form, does not occur in the nosotros because it does fall outside of the boot. Stem changes that will occur, however, and we're not going to dive too deep into this, if the verb is a stem changing IR verb in the chunk, or is a chancla in the preterite tense, that same stem change would occur in the nosotros command. For example, the verb dormir, to sleep, if we wanted to use the preterite tense conjugation, if you remember those, dormi, dormiste, durmió, dormimos, dormistes, and durmieron, or the bottom two change O to U, the chancla, the sandal stem change. That O to U is actually going to apply to the nosotros command. So instead of dormamos, we're going to say durmamos with a U, flipping our ending, of course, with the amos, the amos ending. More examples of that, pedir. In the preterite tense, I ordered, you ordered, he, she ordered, pedi, pediste, pedio. You can see the bottom two are going to change. That change is going to apply to the flipped ending. Pidamos means let's order. Or no pidamos means let's not order. Servir would work the same way. Remember the preterite tense, we have servio and servieron having the E to I stem change. So flipped ending, amos. On your nosotros command would be sirvamos, meaning let's serve. Competir, to compete, has the same idea, E to I. Compitio and compitieron would make let's compete, compitamos. Still flipped ending, but we have a different stem change. So to overview a variety of verbs that kind of sum up the changes that you're going to see. Encontrar, to find. We have flipped endings everywhere, which you're going to notice that only the usted and the ustedes have a stem change. Encuentre, encuentren. Encontremos would not have that O to UE. Sacar is a cargarzar, so sake, saquen, and saquemos. Take out and let's take out. Traer, the yo form is traigo, so you traiga, traigan, and traigamos. Don't be, no ser, no sea, no sean, no seamos. Jugar, remember, because usted and ustedes fall within the boot, it's going to have both the U to UE stem change as well as the cargars, or the gars stem change, the GU. So juegue, jueguen, but juguemos. The stem change doesn't occur, but the spelling change, the gar verb spelling change does occur. Mentir, mienta, mientan, it's an E to IE stem change, means to lie. Mintamos would be a chancla verb that we haven't studied too much, but it's important to have down. Dormir, finally, duerma, O to UE stem change, flipped ending. Duerman, same idea, but rather durmamos, the O to U from the chancla of the preterite tense and the flipped verb. And that'll sum it up for commands.